We've been playing Marvel Rivals literally the day after it came out. We were so obsessed with it, and I knew nothing about the Marvel MCU universe. I've only watched random movies here and there. Like, I watched all the Tom Holland Spider-Man ones, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Thor, Love and Thunder. Because like my sister's really into the MCU, she'd randomly be like, hey, you wanna watch this movie with us? And I'm like, I don't know anything about the MCU. And then she's like, just watch it, you don't need to watch anything else. And I'm like, okay. And I watched a movie and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on, but okay. All in all, never knew anything about MCU. I knew the characters' names and stuff, but I didn't know any of their story. But Jerome is a huge MCU nerd, and then he was like, let's watch all the movies. Guardians of the Galaxy, then Guardians of the Galaxy 2, then we watched Iron Man and Iron Man 2, Captain America, Thor, Avengers Age of Ultron, Captain America Civil War, Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, and then Endgame yesterday. We were gonna watch Guardians 3 yesterday, but then we had to rescue my sister because she got stuck in snow. Originally, he didn't expect me to like it. The thing is about me is just that I didn't watch any MCU movies because I didn't like it. I didn't watch it because like I never had like the reason to watch it. I just didn't sit down and watch it on my own, right? I had anime to watch. And it's also very overwhelming because there's so many movies and I just didn't really know where to start. When we started playing Marvel Rivals, I was a Adam Warlock main and he was a Mantis main at the time. Now he's like a Thor main, but now he's kind of dabbling with like everybody. And I'm kind of like a Squirrel Girl main. No! So that's why we started with Guardians of the Galaxy. I just love the implementation of all of the 90s, 80s music. And I also really like the development of like how they met in jail and then they kind of like escaped together. Now that I think of it, kind of giving Lemonade Mouth. It's an odd type of group that was kind of just meshed together. I would say this is an A movie. The second one was probably my favorite one so far. I love Drax and Mantis. They're literally my favorite duo. They're so funny. I also love Baby Groot. After watching Endgame and Infinity War, I met Teenage Groot, and I don't like Teenage Groot that much. I'm sorry, he's such a teenager. But Baby Groot is such a baby, and I love him so much. Rocket is literally Groot's dad, okay? Yeah, Drax and Mantis are the best. And I just think the dynamic was so great in this one, and we got to see them kind of like actually work together as like a family. This one is I think my favorite. This was kind of like the start of like, yeah, I think I'm really gonna like these movies. And I really liked this, so Jerome was like, okay, we're gonna watch Iron Man. Like the first Iron Man, vibes of it is so different. It feels so like blockbuster, not like old-timey movie, but like it just has a different vibe versus like the newer films, if that makes sense. It just, I don't know, it just hit kind of different. The first Iron Man I think was also just very special because meet him as he is as a character. He wasn't my favorite. I didn't really like him that much because he was like a womanizer in the beginning and I was like, ugh, just a nepo baby. But he is obviously very, very talented and very knowledgeable in, you know, creating technology stuff, so he kind of like deserves it. It's like those nepo babies that you can't just be mad at because they're like, he doesn't pay someone to do it for him type beat. He does it himself. He was literally in a cave with like scrap metal with one other like engineer guy, and they kind of like created the first Iron Man with what they had, and it was like a success like escape mission. After seeing all that and like seeing what he experienced and the people that his father's weapons affected really changed who he was as a person, and he just decided to become a hero without saying he's a hero. I think it's A for me. I think it was really fun. Iron Man 2, I can't really remember it too much because I was building a Lego Lucky Bamboo while we were watching it. I do remember his best friend changing actors, and then we kind of met him. I thought it was so funny because we watched us all like in the span of like a month. Not even a month, actually like 2 weeks. Oh my god, we watched this in like 2-3 weeks. That's kind of crazy. But Iron Man 2, his military friend, he stole the suit and then he kind of just like made it his own suit. And I love how Tony wasn't like, give that back, he stole it. He's just like, yeah, whatever, take it. I would say this one is A. Thor 1 was okay. I also thought it was interesting that they bleached his eyebrows, his beard, and everything because he looks so different. I think it suits who Thor is as a character because he does look so mythical, if that makes sense. Just by looking at his face, he doesn't look like he's from there. In the other movies, they decided to not bleach his eyebrows, so he looks a lot different. It didn't feel special. I think the final scene, Thor was like, I am worthy and I could like hold my hammer and do stuff. It's a little cliche, but I guess that's like, you know, a lot of mythologies, very old stories, so I guess that's where it kind of like just rooted from. Anyways, this one was okay for me. I would give it a C. Like Captain America, honestly, I did not expect to like him at all. You know, they're just trying to like make America sound good, blah blah blah. But I actually really like Captain America. He's my favorite. Because people were like, oh, you're gonna change your mind after Civil War, I think. And I'm like, okay, maybe. And I didn't change my mind. He did do questionable things, but I'm a huge sucker for just like hero doing actions from the good of your heart type beat, or just like genuineness. I'm just like a huge sucker for that. So I think that's why I gravitated towards Captain America a lot. Also, I was so sad about like his wifey. Oh, the ending hit so good. How he decided to crash his ship, and then he became like Aang the Avatar, and like was frozen in ice for like 100 billion years, and then now he's like awoken in modern day society to save the world because he's the Avatar, the chosen one. What is this plot twist, man? Not really a plot twist, but like, how do you explain it? It was like, oh, he was actually here the whole time. He was found in modern day 21st century. His whole like development with Peggy made me really like the story and really like Captain America. It's just like angst feeling in my heart. He didn't show up for the last dance, and then, you know, like Endgame, everything changed, but I'll talk about that later. I would say this movie would be like here for me. The first Avengers made me feel super excited because it felt like such a big payoff, meeting all these characters and just like seeing them work together. And it's interesting because I don't know why, I just didn't think about how they might not even like work together super well in the beginning. Like my brain went like, oh, like the Avengers, like yeah, they're like the team that saves the world together and stuff like that. But then in this movie they were like, oh, we actually have to like work on our personalities because everyone just came from such different backgrounds and backstories to where we might not even work together well. So imagine like being pushed together with a bunch of different heroes that think they're the hero. They only learned how to work alone, and they kind of had to like figure out how to work as a team. It was really interesting to see how they learned to like work together. And I think that's what made this movie really great. I think the one thing I didn't really like about this movie was the fact that Loki was the villain. Loki is okay to me. What he feels is valid, but sometimes I just feel like he's like a little brat, like stinky guy. I did warm up to him after Ragnarok and Infinity War. In this movie, I was like, oh my gosh, this little guy just wants to take over the palace and he's just gonna destroy everything. But we learned later on, obviously, that Thanos was the one that told him to do that. So, also, Hulk. I didn't gravitate towards Hulk. I think it's obviously because they all saw him as like a villain type beat. You know, he didn't really have much of a personality other than like Bruce Banner. Also, Bruce Banner was very like standoffish towards everybody, which is understandable because they all were standoffish with each other at the time. Anyways, I think this was an amazing movie, S-tier movie. Iron Man 3. So Iron Man 3 was about the exploding people. What I really liked about this movie was how Tony Stark ended up getting adopted by a kid. And he kind of had to like start from zero in a shed. I love Peggy. Pepper. Oh my god, Pepper. Pepper is such a cute name, by the way. I loved Pepper and Tony in this one. I think it really developed their story together. Tell me why Tony Stark in the beginning of this movie was literally Naruto on Himari's birthday. It's kind of sad. It's such a tough situation being in a relationship with someone that is willing to sacrifice their life for other people. And I feel like a lot of like people and their partners are in the military. Like, I don't even know if you're gonna come home. It's like the same thing with Iron Man, right? But like on a larger scale, because he just throws himself into the face of battle. So I understand how hard it can be for Pepper to deal with that, because both ways, Iron Man and Pepper are like, I can't live without you. I think it's very valid for her to feel like no more suits. Like, you can help in other ways, but like no more suits. Until she got into the face of like the situation and got injected with stuff, became like a hot lava girl, even though she ended up saving Tony. When I was watching it at the time, I was like, oh, like if I felt like I couldn't accept the fact that due to his job, like he can die tomorrow, I would have to end the relationship. And like if there was no way to make a compromise, if I were like, oh, you have to quit your job if you want to be with me, like I would never tell my partner like to quit something that they are passionate about for my sake. I don't think I could ever do that, because at the end of the day, we're all like our individual people, but it's up to the partner to like make the compromise, and like, or it's up to me to figure out like, you know, maybe this is something I just have to get over because I want to like live my life with this person. I think in this movie, I was kind of wish he didn't like tell him to put away the suits when obviously this is his new life passion. Like this is what he finds his purpose is. Later on, she like kind of just accepts that fact that she wants to stay with Tony Stark. Iron Man is a package deal, and I think she just accepts that later on. But yeah, anyways, I really like this movie. I was just yapping. I would say for here, it was a sweet movie. Captain America Winter Soldiers. When Nick Fury died, I was like, there's no way, because I saw him in Captain Marvel. I guess I did get spoiled when we were watching it. Jerome was like, look, he's dead, and they like confirmed the body. And usually my rule of thumb is if you don't see the body dead, they're not dead. So this kind of applied to Bucky because he just like fell from the freaking train into the abyss. Why would they just kill off this character that they like talked about throughout as if he was like nothing, right? So obviously he's gonna come back later. Also, I did get spoiled because of Marvel Rivals, but I was like, yeah, Bucky is Winter Soldier. So we learn about the Winter Soldier and how he's like a myth legend person, but then we find out that he's actually alive and doing stuff for Hydra. My biggest thing about Bucky and Captain America is that they're basically Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto obviously is Captain America, Bucky is Sasuke. Sasuke was a chill dude. He ended up betraying the world because he got something injected in him. So it's like Orochimaru's snake bite on Sasuke. And then, you know, when they're like, oh my god, he has to remember me. And he has to do his like talk no jutsu, like, you remember me, right? And he's like taking all the hits. And like Bucky's like slowly remembering. Not the same, but like similar. Bucky starts to remember like all the good times that they had together, and you're like, wait, I know you. At the end of the day, he saves Captain America. Yeah, I do like this movie. I remember it because Naruto and Sasuke. Yoink. Avengers Age of Ultron. I think this one was crazy. Yay. This one was when Iron Man got scared after the first Avengers and was like, oh my god, like what's up there in the sky? I have to do whatever I can to protect Pepper and humanity. So he was like, I'm gonna make a bunch of Iron Man suits to save everybody. It just didn't go well, and then he ended up making Ultron, which ended up becoming sentient, which is always a bad idea, and then decided to take over the world. What I realized is a reoccurring theme. So like Ultron, Thanos, bald purple guy from Guardians 3, they all think that they have to create a perfect society based off of their own ideals, but it's like at the end of the day, creating a utopia is never gonna work. It's just never gonna work. Nothing's gonna be perfect, and we just have to accept that. That is life. That is what life is. It also introduced us to Scarlet Witch and Vision, who is also Jarvis, and he died. I think in this movie Iron Man made an oopsie, but I would say this one would be an A tier, maybe like here or something. After that movie, I did think, yo, there's always so much destruction. There's no way there's no casualties. And like it did show there were casualties. There were people that suffered. The government wanted to kind of take control of the Avengers. They wanted them to sign a contract saying like you can only operate under the okay of all these countries. And I already instantly thought that was such a bad idea because like obviously there was already SHIELD, right? SHIELD and Hydra, which was already like internally corrupted, right? So like how easy would that be for all these countries to make Avengers operate under their plan? There could be ways where they're like, oh, I don't like this country, we're gonna take the Avengers and make them fight this country, or like we're not gonna help this country because we don't like this country. It's such a hard choice. By signing it, it does make the Avengers think, oh, if something happens, it's not our fault, it's the government's, right? Puts blame on somebody via contract. In reality, either if they do help or they don't help, people are gonna die. Sometimes there's gonna be those casualties that happens, but it's like that's the way of the world, I guess. No, I'm joking, but I don't know, it's a hard situation. When I was watching it, I was like, this is literally Marvel Rivals. What the heck? I did see people not like Captain America because of this movie, because of the fact that he knew that Bucky killed Iron Man's parents. But it wasn't really Bucky, it was the Winter Soldier. I feel like the line delivery of that movie could have been better during that scene, because he could have said it wasn't Bucky, it was the Winter Soldier, which kind of just differentiates Bucky and the Winter Soldier. Even though his like, you know, his being did do those things, he was also mind controlled, so it technically wasn't him, because Captain America does know his personality, knows who he is. He knows that he would never do that as Bucky. But obviously Tony, that's like one of his biggest traumas, and hearing that Captain America is trying to save the person that killed his parents, that made him all alone in the world, especially coming from a friend that knew this whole time time. I think this movie was really cool too because they also introduced Spider-Man and Ant-Man. I think this movie also touched on Black Widow and the Hulk, which was kind of a little weird to me. A little weird. Black Widow and the Hulk. She likes them green. I would say this was S tier. This is probably my favorite Captain America movie. Basically an Avengers movie. The first Avengers was so special, but this one had so much drama and angst in it. Maybe I'll put it at like 2 because 1 was such a happy film. I really liked the Ragnarok. That one was so good. I laughed so hard in that one. I think this movie made me really love Hulk. Hulk already is kind of nostalgic to me because I did watch it so many times as a kid. Hulk was so funny in this movie. I kind of caught that he was there because I did remember after Age of Ultron, he just sat in that ship and was like, I'm sad. I'm Hulk. I'm sad. Thor just like, I have business to do, left. I love that they didn't show up in Civil War because they were doing some like goofy stuff in Thor Ragnarok. I think that was so good. I thought that was so funny. And then like he just flew away into space and I was like, where the heck did he go? And then he ended up at this random like planet where Thor happened to like get yeeted into by Hela, and then he was like, I'm gonna fight because no one on earth loves me. Now everyone loves me and I feel like I have a purpose, which is so sad, right? It's so sad. And then Thor was like, everyone on earth loves you, and he's like, no one on earth loves me. Has feelings, and I think that's like the biggest part of it, right? Until he turned into Bruce and like, you know, he kind of just had to like do his thing, and he was like, bro, what happened to Ultron? And then Thor was like, bro, it's been 2 years. It's crazy because it's like for Bruce, it's been like 2 seconds and all of a sudden he's like on this random planet and he's trying to like fight for his life. I just think that was so good. I really loved Hulk. I love Hulk. She likes them green. Hello. She was a really good villain. This movie made me really like Loki. Made me really like Hulk. It made me really like Thor a lot more. I also really like Valkyrie. She's so cool. Yeah, I really loved this movie. This movie was so good. I would say S tier for me. That was a great movie. I loved it. Infinity War. I feel like Infinity War alone as a movie is such a sad movie, and I'm glad that I didn't have to wait a whole year to watch Endgame. I just had to wait like a couple days. No, I didn't even wait a couple days. We watched Infinity War and then it was like 1 a.m. and I was like, Jerome, you have to go home. And then he was like, nah, let's just watch a little bit of Endgame, right? So we only watched like an hour of Endgame and then we stopped it. It was like at the part where they were going through the time machine and we stopped and I had to wait like a couple days. So it felt like I just watched like one episode of a show. I feel like Endgame and Infinity War go together, but as a standalone movie, it was so sad. Such a sad movie. And I cannot believe the whole world had to wait a whole year until Endgame came out. And I had to wait like a couple days. It's a different spin of what if the villain won? What would have happened? And I think this movie was really cool because you also have so much hope because all superheroes of Earth plus a few of the galaxy came to Earth and tried to save the universe, but then they failed. To me, Infinity War isn't completed without Endgame, but as a standalone movie here because it's so sad. I don't like the ending. Endgame was so good. The thing is that I like about movies is like I like a good balance between comedy, drama, action. Endgame had all of it and it just was the perfect movie. It was like probably the best out of everything, obviously. And it made me cry at the end. Hulk made me laugh so much. Like, why is he wearing a sweater? Why does he have glasses? Does restaurants give him like a custom made chairs to sit at? He was so funny in it. I think overall Captain America is still my favorite, but I think Hulk is like my second now. He's so weird. And I love how we got to see more scenes from the first Avengers movie in Endgame. I thought it was just so good and I loved seeing more Hulk in it. And this part was so sad when they're all going down the elevator like hee and they're like, well, there's a weight capacity and they didn't let Hulk go through. Oh my gosh. And then they made him take the freaking stairs down. Like, I'm surprised he actually walked down the stairs and didn't like jump through the middle. And I love when they ran into Hulk smashing and stuff, and then Bruce Hulk was like, that's embarrassing. And then they were like, you should probably smash some things as you walk away. And then he was like, like a fake growling, like what? Another thing that I really loved about this movie is how we did go back in time to the first Avengers movie movie, and it was so trippy because it's like seeing deleted scenes of the first movie. It's like breaking the fourth wall, if that makes sense. And it was so cool how we visited the monk girly, I forgot her name, sorry, from Doctor Strange, and how she had the time stone. And I love how this whole thing existed literally while the first Avengers movie was happening. Even though Doctor Strange wasn't Doctor Strange at this point of the timeline, he still kind of played a part in this whole thing. The fact that this was all going in like 10 years ago when the first Avengers movie came out, like we didn't know all of this was happening, and it's like kind of cool. I thought it was so interesting that because Doctor Strange knew what happens, like he basically spoiled himself for like the end of the movie. When he came back, Iron Man was like, so like what happens? And then he was like, if I tell you, we're not gonna win. Which meant obviously if he told him earlier in the fight, he would think about his daughter, think about Pepper, he would hesitate, right? So obviously like a good call for Doctor Strange until towards the end where he was like, one. And then Iron Man was like, okay, I guess it's time, man. But I also think that Pepper was very much prepared for this moment. I feel like she's been preparing for this moment. I feel like she kind of knew she had to like prepare for herself, especially because he was always willing to fight for his family and for everybody in the world. She was probably pretty much prepared. It's so funny because Peter Parker, this man's like, well, Mr. Stark, what's happening? Are you okay? And then Pepper's like, move. I need my moment. And then like I was bawling my eyes out, especially during the funeral scene. Oh my god, I was dying. I'm getting sad thinking about it. Literally, I was tearing up for most of the death part, and like, you know, Pepper saying, we'll be okay, you can go. That hurt me. But seeing this in the water during the funeral scene is literally what made me lose it. Made my eyes turn into waterfalls. And then Captain America, how he went back. When he didn't come back, I was like, oh shoot, he stayed. Did he stay? And then like it pans to this man sitting on the bench, and I was like, it's Captain America, he's old, right? And then Falcon just comes over and he's just like, you know, I'm old, I want to live my life. Peggy was right there. I needed the chance and I took it, right? So then he passes on the role of Captain America to Falcon America. Yes. But I think what's so interesting that me and Jerome talked about, contrast between Iron Man and Captain America throughout the whole franchise was like very interesting because Iron Man originally started off as such like he's like a nepo baby, a brat. He, you know, he only thinks about himself and benefits himself and all this stuff in the beginning of his story. But then he developed to become somebody that is very selfless and thinks about his family and thinks about people in the whole world, to where he ended up sacrificing himself to save everybody, right? He only had that one chance and he just didn't even hesitate and he just did it. Versus Captain America started off being such a selfless person. He was very much a person that was like, I have nothing to lose. And then towards the end of Endgame, he became someone, after serving the world, was like, you know, this is my one chance. I get to be happy. I'm gonna take it, right? So then he decided to take it, and I think it was very much deserved. Also, y'all, I'm so confused about this, and I think it's just so sad how both kind of just ended differently. But I think Iron Man wouldn't have changed anything, and I think he was also very lucky because after Thanos snapped at like half the population, he was very lucky that Peggy and him didn't get snapped away, and they were able to have their daughter. And the moment when everyone just kind of came back to fight, that was just so good. The next like Endgame 2.0 is gonna be like different dimensions and stuff like that, so I wonder how that's gonna work. This Endgame was probably the best movie. Endgame was basically a conclusion of everything. Without all these movies, Endgame wouldn't have hit as hard. While we were watching Endgame, my sister, she's like so bad, okay? Let me just tell you. She doesn't think before she talks, okay? So during Endgame, there's a scene that like everyone like went crazy over. It was already kind of hinted in the past movie when everyone was trying to lift up Thor's hammer, and then Captain America tried lifting it and it kind of like tilted it a bit, you know what I mean? But then in Endgame, Captain America was able to lift it and like actually use his hammer, which I was like, ah! When that scene was coming, my sister was being so, it was like a good like maybe couple seconds before it happened, and she's just like looking at me like that, and I'm like, why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me? And then I missed it. I missed what happened because she was just staring at me, and I was just like, why are you looking at me? And I was so mad. I was like, and I love Captain America too. And then there's also this scene where all the characters like came back through Doctor Strange's portal thing, and then Captain America goes, Avengers assemble. So before he said assemble. Brenna goes, assemble! I'm like, why did you ruin this moment for me? Why did you ruin this moment for me? I was so mad. I was so mad. Literally, imagine this is your first time watching this in the theater and someone just screams, assemble. Oh my god. I'm going to repeat exactly what happened just so you guys could feel my pain.
Avengers!
Assemble! Bro, why would you say that? Isn't it obvious he's gonna say it?
Assemble.
Bro, I was so mad at her when she did that, and I was like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And she was like, isn't it obvious he's gonna say that? I'm like, no, I've never seen this movie. And yes, she did know that this was my first time watching this movie. Jerome kept being like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not, because this was supposed to be a moment, and this girl really said assemble before Captain America said assemble. And I was just like thinking about how mad I was. I was so mad. But yeah, just imagine avoiding spoilers for 4 years, actually almost 6 years now, just for your sister to spoil it for you while you're watching the movie. It was such a good 2-week journey for me that people had to go through for like 20 years to see the end. I kind of wish I was able to experience those things as everyone else was experiencing it, but I'm glad that I caught up now, almost. I mean, there's a lot of more movies to watch after Endgame, but I'm glad that I'm able to watch stuff now, so for any future Endgame 2.0 movie to come out, I can possibly experience that with the world too. So yeah, I'm really excited for that.